The announcement was contained in a statement issued by Felix Kwakye Ofosu, Member of Parliament, Minister of State in charge of Government Communication. He's actually joined us on the line now for further details on this. Honorable, you're welcome to our coverage of this breaking news story coming through. First of all, the issue of conveyor belt, we noticed that you have captured that in there some way, somehow in your statement. Talk to us about the role of the President in this decision.
Well, the role of the President is clearly defined under Article 146. And since March this year, the President has strictly adhered to the constitutional tenets and has done everything in consonance with constitutional provisions. So it must be emphasized that we have arrived at this juncture because of what the Constitution says and not necessarily what the President believes.
The committee that was set up, the members came to the Jubilee House today. The presumption is that it was their visit that necessitated this announcement. Can you talk to us about what the committee said?
Well, the committee recommended the removal of the Chief Justice. That is all I can say. Because as you are fully aware, Article 146 also does not permit disclosure of the proceedings of the committee. Except that the Chief Justice has been written to by the President through his secretary, and the basis upon which the committee arrived at the decision has been communicated clearly to her. A warrant, as prescribed once again by Article 146, was also issued to accompany the letter. So she has been made aware of the removal and the basis for it. But I am not permitted by law to make any disclosures beyond the fact that the President has complied with the recommendations of the committee.
Which means that Jubilee House will not tell the public the reasons for her removal, except to say that the committee said she should be removed.
Jubilee House cannot breach the Constitution of Ghana, which bars us from discussing details surrounding this entire proceeding.
However, the expedited nature of the process is curious, isn't it? That 3 hours or so ago, the committee members came to the President to brief him and deliver to him a sealed envelope. Few hours later, you have said that a letter has been written to her and all the processes that are required before the announcement will be made have been done. It looks a bit expedited, isn't it?
Well, I'm not sure about expedition. The point is that the committee presented a report. Several hours passed before a statement was issued. You see, the President cannot take a position either in favor of or against the recommendation of the committee. So what the President needs to acquaint himself with is the recommendation, whether or not the Chief Justice should be removed or maintained in office. And once it is clearly written in black and white in the report presented that that is the recommendation of the committee, action must be taken to fulfill that, requirement. And that is what has been done. I mean, it doesn't take forever to draft a letter informing the Chief Justice about this. It doesn't take forever to prepare a warrant. And it doesn't take forever to put out a 3-paragraph statement that I have done, announcing to the people of Ghana that this is the decision the President has taken based on the recommendations. This is the action, I beg your pardon, the President has taken based on the recommendations of the committee. So there's really no issue of expedited action or the lack of it.
This is a big issue. I spoke to Joseph Menka a short while ago. He was Deputy Attorney General. He says that from where he sits or he sat, he's noticed that the Constitution was respected, all the procedure was properly followed, except that he says you can also use the Constitution for your own mischief, and he believes that this has opened the floodgates for future Chief Justices to be removed. What's your comment on that?
First of all, how can upholding the Constitution of Ghana be referred to as mischievous? In other words, our Constitution is designed to carry out mischievous ends. This law has always been there. In fact, aspects of the law were used by Mr. Kwenke's government when he served as Deputy Attorney General to remove the chairperson of the Electoral Commission. At the time, Mr. Kwenke was nowhere to be found regarding the statements he's making today. No, we cannot hate pork and eat pork soup tomorrow. We either drink deep or we taste not. We are a constitutional democracy. That then means that provisions of the Constitution must be respected. Now, we cannot choose and pick as and when we accept the carrying out of provisions of the Constitution based on where we stand on the political divide or what our particular interest is in a particular case. We also cannot begin to implement a sacred cow philosophy, I beg your pardon, in Ghana, where depending on the weight or magnitude of an individual involved in a particular case, we refuse to stick to constitutional injunctions. I don't think that we can get to that point. If we believe that we are a constitutional democracy, that we must act as such. And in this instance, that is precisely what has happened.
They say that you have set a bad precedent and that as a party you have promised to remove the Chief Justice and you have carried that out. How do you respond to that?
I would like to hear about the promise that is under reference. Do you know of anybody, President Mahama, myself, or any other person in decision-making position who made such a promise? And indeed, how could such a promise have been made? No such promise was made. The other issue too is that when people speak about setting a bad precedent, I do not know what they are talking about. Umar, is it being suggested that adhering to the Constitution to carry out a process which is prescribed by that Constitution itself sets a bad precedent? Indeed, what would be a bad precedent is to fail to act simply because of the weight of the individual in question. Umaru, if you violate Ghanaian law, if I violate Ghanaian law, we should be dealt with according to that law. But the moment you begin to see that Umaru is such a big, huge personality in Ghana, that despite evidence of wrongdoing and despite the availability of clearly defined provisions in the Constitution to address that matter, we will not act. The day we do that, that is when we would have set a bad precedent. So to be honest with you, I fail to grasp the point of those who refer to what exactly is a bad precedent. And mostly this has come from opponents of this government. The same people who applied the Constitution to remove the head of an independent body, the Electoral Commission, in 2018 or so. How then do they suddenly turn around and oppose the use of that same provision of the Constitution to carry out this exercise as prescribed by that Constitution?
Finally, as one of 3 petitions that was that had work done and reports presented today, what happens to the remaining 2? Have they effectively become moot and the committee will stop work, or the committee will go back and work on the other 2?
Well, that is within the bosom of the committee, as Justice Kwakye explained this morning when he made some brief remarks upon presentation of the report to the President. It was the parties involved in the adjudication themselves who requested an adjournment of those 2 cases. The committee was prepared and ready to go into those matters, but the parties made representations before them that they adjourned it. However, no such request was forthcoming in respect of the petition presented by Mr. Daniel Ofori. So it is on the basis of the work that the committee did on Mr. Daniel Ofori's petition that this report was submitted, and the recommendations contained in the made, upon which the President has taken this particular action.
Very well. Thank you so much.
It is up to the committee to determine whether they carry on with the work of looking into the 2 other petitions or they bring it to an end at this stage.
Thank you so much for speaking to us.
The pleasure is mine.
That's Felix Kwakye, Ofosu, Member of Parliament for Abra Sebu Kwamankesi. He's Minister of State in charge of Government Communication.